property ownership, and it has been a bit scary. And I think that it goes back to the Land Use Act, that decree. I don't know why they still call it a decree, because decree is like a military term, you know. I feel like, some things must have been done. So I thought maybe that's what you guys would discuss at the NBA conference and stuff like that. But, you people didn't go there. So one of the things that people say is that, that part that says, all lands are vested in the power of the governor. People think it's a very, 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 very powerful clause that gives a lot of power to the government. So they say, what is now the role of the ancestral owners of that land if everything is vested in the hands of the governor? Okay, and can that law not be looked at, or that decree not be looked at and repealed in such a way that, there's a bit of flexibility that allows for ancestral owners to also have some legal access to this land, so that the policies surrounding real estate can be a bit stable?
Okay, so let's start from the law itself. So that law started with a decree.
Yeah.
1970, we're under military regime. So any law passed by a federal legislature during military regimes are called decrees.
Yes.
Excuse me. So now it started with a decree. It was during Olusegun Obasanjo's regime then. Now, but because we have transited to a civilian regime, it is now an act.
Yeah.
So it is Land Use Act, no longer a decree. But it started with a decree, just like so many laws that we still have now. But as soon as you transition to a civilian regime, even though it was a military president that, of course, passed into law, it will now be called an act. So right now we have it as an act. Now, the land user gave a lot of power to the governor of the state.
Yeah.
But that power is limited in the sense that the power is in trust. So the governor is supposed to hold it in trust. So we have to look at what is trust when it comes to law.
That's what I would like to know. So what is trust here in law?
Yeah. When it comes to trust in law, trust means that I have a property and I want to give it to my child that is, let's say, 2 years old. But because of the restriction that a 2-year-old boy cannot own the property, let me give it to you, right? The uncle of that boy, that okay, just hold it for him in trust. It is not for you, but you are the trustee of the property, holding it that okay, when he's now 18, you will give him the property. So he is the beneficiary. All the citizens of Nigeria are beneficiaries of the land.
True.
The governors are holding it in trust. That is how it ought to be. But then
we don't really know what's happening. Is it still in trust?
So that's the question now.
Yeah.
So the question now is, are they handling it the way it ought to be?
Yeah.
In the legal way, the legal intention of that particular law.
Yeah.
That I may not be able to say expressly. Yes.
Yes.
Because you will now discover that there are certain things that are happening that looks like it is no longer in trust. It's almost looking like personal interest.
Yeah,
you understand? So because when you hold it, because the beneficiary, you are looking at the interest of the beneficiary, not your own personal interest. If you are holding something in trust. So, and the reason why the foundation of that law actually is to demonopolize the issue of land use from the ancestral owners, because the ancestral owners too were holding on to the land.
Yeah.
Like
so oligarchs in their own name.
So if the government needed land, let's say for Red Line, or for Blue Railway, or for Coastal Road, or for many things, it will be very hard to get this land. Why? Because the land belongs to our community. We can't give it to you.
Oh wow.
They want to use it for, let's say, state hospital or state secretariat or anything. Government needs land for a lot of public projects also, right? True. So if they cannot have easy access to it, there's a problem. So they took it. So you people come back.
They took it plus the trust now. Oh my God, man.
They took everything and said, okay, if you need this land, come and meet us. So families will now go back to the government and say, okay, this land you say is under acquisition.
Mm-hmm.
So we now have land that are free.
Mm-hmm.
We now have a larger portion under
Mm-hmm.
acquisition.
Acquisition,
Right?
yes.
So the family will now come to the government and say, see, we need this land. Right? Give us this land. This is our community land. At least you've taken this larger portion, just give us part of it.
It's
So that's
crazy.
what we now call excision.
Yeah.
You do not exercise part of it to
Part of
them
it,
and
yeah.
say, okay, take this 20 acres, take this 50 acres. You
Yeah.
understand? Take this 100 acres to families, right? That's what you now call village excision. So each village can now have that,
Yeah.
so that it will be free for them. They can now proceed to go and do, C of O.
Yeah.
But if you look at it, actually, it's on both sides. The the communities themselves too, they started the whole thing, and when government eventually got it, the government too decided to now be playing pranks with the use of land, because normally what should be happening is such that anything government is doing with the land should be for public interest.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
For public interest.
True.
And I will say this, yes, it may not look palatable to some developers.
Oh, come on.
I feel like
that's why the doctors
I
laugh.
feel like if government is going to take the land, right, from the people, let's say it is the land is under acquisition, right, and government is saying, okay, you people have bought this place, and they sell it, they give government allocation to another developer, right? I feel that is not in trust.
Yeah, that's not a trust.
That is not in public interest, except the government can come out to say, okay, this is actually in the interest of the public.
How?
Do you understand?
We need a lot of lawyers to defend that case.
Because if that's why sometimes you see that some people now come up and then go and sue the government, and sometimes they win.
Yeah, they win.
You understand? Because if you are going to take the land, by all means, it must be for the public interest. So if you are taking it for schools, school projects, for hospital projects,
that's public interest.
That's public interest, right? Yeah. But not to take it from people
and give it
to a developer. That will now sell it
for a very
expensive.
You're not doing a housing scheme for everybody.
Thank you. So a housing scheme. So that is the point there, right? So I hope that answers the question.
It's crazy because it has been driving a lot of people into frenzy, and you're just thinking, you know what, I'll just keep my money. But I said, but if you still keep your money, depreciation is inflation is a thief. It's a silent thief. One of the thieves.
It won't tell you that it's actually stealing the money.
Yeah, it will tell you. So it's a silent taxation. That's what I call that. Yeah, that's what I call inflation. I call it a silent taxation. All right. So you did very well on that. And I just hope that the government just sits back and begins.
Yes, we're just appealing to the government.
Yes,
let them, as much as possible, even if it's going to go to developers.
Yes.
Let it be like a price cap. Yeah. So first, the documentation process should not be too cumbersome that the developer will have to spend so much, right? Because I understand from developers' standpoint too.
Of course,
they will spend so much to get it, so they have to
spend so much on the project.
You understand? So if the government can make it less cumbersome, right, less expensive, so that the developer can now also sell it to the public, so that we know that, okay, eventually the public is getting it. Yeah. So we can see that, okay, it's actually for their interest. At the end of the day, not for the interest of
some selected few.
Very few number that can afford 100 million naira property, 50 million naira property. Most people can't.
It's crazy.
And we are